It's as close to time travel as we're gonna get. This Week in Music History with Marty Miller.
Yes. It is the podcast of the Lord. Okay. So this is time travel. We're going to go through this week in music history, and we're going to do it in less than 10 minutes because we always do. This is June 29th to July 3rd. Bit of loss this week, actually. Like Jim Morrison. And from the Rolling Stones, Brian Jones.
I think he liked drinking. I think he liked drugs, but they weren't very good for him.
It was the 70s. It seemed like a good idea at the time. But was it Kiss?
There was the old Marvel comic.
Yes.
That had Kiss on the front, and it said it was printed with the band's blood.
Yes.
And tiny sounds arrive in our world this week in music history.
Is a tiny stereo cassette player.
Let's time travel.
This Week in Music History with Marty Miller.
Back in 1967, Rolling Stone Keith Richards was found guilty of allowing his house to be used for the illegal smoking of cannabis. He was sentenced to 1 year in jail and given a fine for £500. Now, £500 in 67 is a lot of money. Did you know he had a prison number? His prison number was 5855. And he caused quite a stir with fans back then, especially for the appeal.
London. It's years since such crowds gathered to await an appeal verdict. But this was the Rolling Stones case, with the fans out in force. When Mick Jagger was conditionally discharged and Keith Richards' sentence quashed, the pop idols drove off, the shadow of jail no longer over them.
In 1985, John Lennon's 1965 Rolls-Royce Phantom limo with psychedelic paintwork sold for £3 million and then some at Sotheby's auction in New York. It was made out in such a fashion.
It was originally Valentine Black. It was ordered and delivered in the spring of 1965, and in the fall it took the Beatles to Buckingham Palace to receive their MBEs.
So when did he decide to create this amazing piece of art?
They were mixing down Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band, and he commissioned Steve Weaver at J.P. Fallon to make the design, and it was approved, and he sat in the garage with cans of house paint and put the design on the vehicle, and it was delivered 9 days before the press conference for Sgt. Pepper's.
Stuff that seemed like a good idea at the time. In 1977, Marvel Comics launched a comic book based on the band Kiss. Blood from each band member was drawn by a registered nurse, witnessed by a notary, and poured into the vats of red ink used for printing the comic at Marvel's ink plant in New York.
There was the old Marvel comic.
Yes.
That had Kiss on the front, and it said it was printed with the band's blood.
Yes. In Howard the Duck number 12, Steve Gerber had written us into the storyline, which was amazing. He was a big fan, and yes, I was really happy they didn't want anything for the yellow ink.
2004, Dave Davies of the Kinks, God bless him, was left paralysed on the right-hand side of his body after a stroke. He'd recover enough to talk and walk and play guitar again by 2006. Here's Dave as he shares that secret on the Kinks' iconic sound. How was it done, Dave?
A single-sided razor blade, and I got so fed up with it that I slashed the cone of the speaker because the amp was open. And I plugged it in, and it came out with that raspy sound. And that's where it was born, really. And I improved on it by taking an output lead to a Vox C30 and got many electric shocks in the process. That's how it was really born.
In 1975, 10cc were number one on the UK singles chart with I'm Not In Love. If you've never heard how that record was made, it was absolutely beyond genius. And you should watch the video that's on nova.ie.
To be involved with that track, and it's been the best track that I have ever had the pleasure of being involved with, really.
I still love hearing it now. I don't think you ever get fed up with it, actually. It just stops you in your tracks, really. And no one would think that you'd still be hearing it all those years later.
I'm not in love. Now, considering this is a podcast, and podcasts came from radio casts, so in 1995 it's a nod to an American DJ who died this week in 95 called Wolfman Jack. This fella was the voice of the rock and roll generation of the 60s in the United States. Quite incredible. You'd never get away with his style today, but this is how he sounded back then.
We got to close it out. That's it for the Wolfman Jack show for tonight.
Again, I love you, but I'm all alone.
I'm all alone till I see it again tomorrow night, baby. Until tomorrow, I love you so much.
I'm so blue.
In 2020, the musician Max Crook died of age 83. Now, you might be going, no, never heard of him. Basically, he was a pioneer of electronic music. He was the man that played his own invention on Del Shannon's 1961 song, Runaway, the invention called the Musitron.
And all he said, if you don't record this Runaway, I'm going to take it to somebody else.
In 1979, Sony gave the world the Walkman, the first portable audio cassette player, and over the next 30 years they sold around 385 million Walkmans in cassette, CD, minidisc and MP3 players. They were, of course, the market leaders until the arrival of Apple's iPod.
Really feel the music with the Sony Walkman.
The Sony Walkman is a tiny stereo cassette player with truly incredible sound.
You really feel the music. You really feel it. You really feel the music.
Put on a Walkman and see the world in a whole new light.
Sony Walkman.
The Walkman from Sony, the one and only.
In 1991 this week, Axl Rose caused a riot to break out during a Guns N' Roses show. He leapt into the crowd to remove a camera from a fan in Missouri. 50 people were injured and 15 fans were arrested, all because Axl was a big baby.
Hey, take that! Take that! Now, get that guy and take that! I'll take it, goddammit! Well, thanks to the lame-ass security, I'm going home.
Two big losses this week. First of all, 1969, Brian Jones drowned under the influence of drugs and alcohol after deciding to apparently take a midnight swim in his pool. He was just 27. Death by misadventure was the official note on his death cert, noting as well that his liver and heart were heavily enlarged by drug and alcohol abuse.
He was just gone. Well, he wouldn't turn up half the time. When he did turn up, it was not in any condition to do anything, to baby him. No, it was very sad.
I think he liked drinking, I think he liked drugs, but they weren't very good for him. I don't think they're good for anyone, but he wasn't strong enough to, mentally or physically, to take any of it, and of course he did everything. Brian was one of those people that did everything to excess.
Keith and I took drugs, but Brian took too many drugs of the wrong kind, and he wasn't functioning as a musician. I don't think he was that interested in contributing to the Rolling Stones anymore.
And in 1971, Jim Morrison of The Doors was found dead in a bath in Paris, France. The cause of death? A heart attack, apparently.
When we entered the bathroom, I saw the body of a man, the head thrown back. The water, it was just a little bit pink, because I think he must have bled. The water was warm, so the body was also warm, which led us to presume that maybe he was not dead.
And it was another ending of sorts. 1973 this week, after 182 Ziggy Stardust concert performances, David Bowie announced that he was to retire from live performing. Although it eventually meant that Ziggy was being retired and not David himself.
Not only is it the last show of the tour, but it's the last show that we'll ever do. Thank you.
And there you are. That is a look at this week in music history. That, in less than 10 minutes, is June 29th until July 3rd. My name is Marty Miller. Thanks for listening to the podcast. I'll have another one for you next week.
Zipping through a week in a matter of minutes. This week in music history, the podcast.